Developer Playground Games excels in creating vibrant, varied landscapes, and Forza Horizon 4 doesn't disappoint. Based on this preview build, Xbox One X offers up two ways to explore it too. For the first time in the Horizon series history on console, you get the choice between 4K resolution at 30 frames per second and now a new performance mode that delivers 60 FPS. This is for X only. It's been a long requested feature, and while a mainstay of the Forza Motorsport games, until today it's been off limits for the Horizon series outside of PC. So how does it play out on the hardware, and what are the studio's thoughts on the project as a whole? Let's find out. Everything you've seen so far is the 4K quality mode running at 30. Yes, 60 FPS is the new and exciting bit, but this really is the first port of call to appreciate the visuals. As ever, Turn 10's Forza engine shines with the setting change. The racing comes home to Great Britain, and while the push for colour, confetti and fireworks keeps the series' trademark flourishes, at its core the terrain is accurately modelled, with photorealistic takes on each country's landmarks. The game's 4 seasons also distinguish that move to Britain too. From spring round to summer, materials, foliage, skyboxes and of course car handling change with the conditions. Map size is roughly similar to Horizon 3, but that 4-way split helps multiply the possibilities. It's a bold new direction for the series. The switch from summer to autumn to winter isn't a seamless blend, but a hard cut. It'll fade in and out and plant you in the middle of an idealized version of each. But to find out how the team achieved this, I spoke to series creative director Ralph Fulton. In moving from the Australian outback setting of 3, it clearly came with challenges, but it was crucial to making the most of this new setting.
Each individual season touches pretty much each individual asset within the game in some way. There's a challenge for tooling and for pipelines and for rendering, as well as for environment art creation. The challenge was to make it be less than a 4x modifier on the cost, because that wouldn't have worked. And it was really a very cross-disciplinary approach to solving all the many problems that comes with that. And obviously, one of the big things we did in Australia was the sky capture technology, which we kind of pioneered on that project. We've continued to use that. I think we've actually enhanced it. We built a new rig for this game with a slightly higher level of fidelity. In Forza Horizon 4, we're doing seasons, so we had to go and capture skies in all 4 seasons.
Now we've seen the series run at 4K before on Xbox One X. The enhanced patch for Horizon 3 trialled it earlier this year, dipping a toe into the hardware strengths by pushing a native 3840 by 2160 picture. It's what we get here again on the quality mode, but bearing in mind that enhanced patch was only made by a small team in a couple of months, this sequel has much more scope to make use of the machine, with 2 years of development behind it. As such, Xbox One X is treated as a lead platform, and the options are broadened. There's more to come on this, but needless to say the engine changes are impressive, and Playground is getting much more from a 6 teraflop console. And that 30 FPS cap? Well, it's rock solid from the first hour of played. As with the last game, the CPU and GPU resources are carefully managed so as to avoid bottlenecks. For example, foliage renders in seamlessly across the bend of a valley. It's rare you'll catch sight of pop-in, or any sign the machine is struggling to cope with the magnitude of objects being rendered in. Compared to the last Horizon, it gives a great sense of England's rolling pastures rendered in engine, with little compromise on X. Now jump into a car with any real horsepower and you can start pushing the streaming algorithm, meaning occasional LOD transitions become more apparent on trees. But more so than any Horizon game before it, this is the most fluid and consistent world I've seen on an Xbox One machine, and it's not even the final build. Better still, the fact it's running at 30 frames per second without any hitches. Playground Games loves to give a bite-sized summary of everything the game can do in its opening 10 minutes, an engine stress test that Forza Horizon 4 indulges in brilliantly by flashing through every season in turn. Using that as a basis, again 30 FPS is a well-met target with VSync engaged on X. This isn't an easy feat. The pressures of rendering so much terrain, weather effects for snow and rain, screen space reflections and motion blur won't come cheap. It'll be fascinating to see how all this scales down to the less endowed regular Xbox One. As the lead platform, Xbox One X is this time built with 60 FPS in mind as well. Switching to the performance mode is a breath of fresh air, as you can see, and a remarkable turnaround for the console. The pace on some of these cars means every frame truly matters, and doubling the refresh makes it easier to judge every overtake of oncoming traffic. This way, a connection between controller and the on-screen response feels far tighter in Forza Horizon 4. But again, X is the only machine outside of a dedicated PC that is qualified to pull this off. There is a drawback, of course, and you've probably noticed it already. Early pixel counting shows that 4K resolution is no more, and instead, in the performance mode, a native 1920 by 1080 resolution is the concession needed. It's a fixed resolution that gives X's GPU the headroom to fire on all cylinders, and push out a new frame every 16.7 milliseconds. So yes, it's a double-edged sword. You do lose the crisp, beautiful image of the 4K mode. But what's gained in responsiveness at 60 feels hard to pass up. Especially going back to the 30 FPS mode is something you do miss right away. Playground Games clearly wanted to do this right. Optimizing for 60 FPS can't have been easy. But again, speaking to Ralph, this was always part of the plan for the fourth game.
I think you probably asked us about it when we last spoke about the Forza Horizon 3 X enhanced version. You asked about 60 frames per second, and at the time I knew we were working on it for Forza Horizon 4. And it's something that certainly a subset of our fans have been asking for some time. It's something which became possible with the additional horsepower of the One X. It was by no means, and I remember telling you how easily we got Horizon 3 running in 4K. That is a significantly smaller engineering problem than refactoring to get our engine running in 60 frames per second with all the many things that we do in an open world game.
So yes, it works, and putting it through our tools, this isn't just a theoretical high frame rate mode either. This is the real deal. X locks the frame rate down consistently to 60, with barely a single drop to report. Even that vibrant opening sequence showcasing each season doesn't cause any major issue. VSync is engaged once again, and while the overall graphics setting comparisons are something we'll have to look into, besides resolution, visuals are very close to the 4K mode. It's mostly a trade-off between resolution and frame rate then, but at long last, 60 FPS is firmly in the hands of console players. A few questions spring from Horizon 4's ability to double its refresh. For long-time series fans, it will be the tipping point for picking up an X, but of course it'd be amazing to revisit older games with that same enhancement. However, in speaking to the team, it seems they're focused on the latest game for now, and based on my knowledge so far, Horizon 3 likely won't get a retroactive patch to add 60 FPS. This mostly stems from the fact Horizon 4 was built from scratch to factor in X's design, whereas the X enhancement for 3 was added in isolation after release. No doubt there will be heavy strain on CPU resource for streaming assets, and where effects and reflection buffers are concerned, the GPU as well. But here, the team has managed to pull it off on a fresh slate. It's great we do have the choice now. There is a sense though that Playground Games likes to rise to challenges where it can. The drop to 1080p at 60 FPS is something I personally hope can change. A dynamic resolution could in theory work well here, with an upper bounds of 1440p for example. It'd mean wherever there's headroom on X's GPU and memory bandwidth, it could be tapped into for a clearer image. What a fixed 1080p does show us at least is a strong baseline that works consistently for a 60Hz refresh. But even so, I'd be curious to see if anything more could be squeezed from the console. Either way, this sets a precedent for the Horizon line. The series has always taken pride in being the 30 FPS alternative to Forza Motorsport, less of a pure sim experience and more of a celebration of cars on the open road. It's where the Forza Tech visuals could get a notable push on console. But this time, Horizon 4 allows the two series to dovetail in their ambition for 60 FPS, and it now looks and feels wonderful to play. The October 2nd release date looms large for Forza Horizon 4, with the outlook right now being that it's an improvement in every way. Between the 4 seasons and 2 playback options on X, there's now more ways to enjoy the world Playground has created. Anyway, that's all from me today. There will be much more Forza Horizon 4 coverage as we near release. But for now, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like or subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications of any new video as soon as they land. And to get the 4K source file to this video, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net. Meanwhile, you can send any messages directly to me or the team on Twitter. But until next time, thanks for watching.